Hey, what's up everybody? This is Sonteo Media. I wanted to make a video about Vergil Ortiz Jr. out of Grand Prairie, Texas. Here you see him hitting the speed bag at RGBA in Riverside. He is trained by Robert Garcia, by his lead trainer, his father, Vergil Ortiz Sr. He is trained by a trainer that's been with him since the amateurs, Hector Beltran. And he's, for his last 4 or 5 fights, he's been with Charles Trembley, who is Jose Ramirez's strength and conditioning coach. So Vergil Ortiz Jr., he's 22 years old. He's promoted by Golden Boy Promotions. He's 16-0 with 16 knockouts. He's Prospect of the Year for 2019. He had a very good year in 2019. He fought a total of 4 times. He fought in January versus Jesus Barrayan. And then his next 3 opponents for 2019 were all big names who he continued to impress against. He fought Mauricio Herrera, he fought Antonio Orozco, and Brad Solomon, winning him Prospect of the Year from several, the biggest network, ESPN. So he's out of Grand Prairie, Texas. His first 8 or 9 fights were with Toño Diaz, with the Diaz camp out of Indio, California. And then his dad had him make the move, who's his lead trainer, head trainer, made the move. Well, his dad was working a full-time job training his son, and after those first 8 or 9 fights, he decided to resign from his job and continue to be his head trainer full-time. And then the move from Indio over to Riverside happened right around that time as well. So he fought at 140 when he started his professional career, and in the amateurs he had a total of 180 fights, 180 wins, and something like 13 or 14 losses. He had some tough fights versus Michael Dutchover from Texas. He had a split decision loss to Ryan Garcia. I think he had some fights with Nikita Ababi, Rashad Mahdi, but he was knocking people out in most of his amateur fights. He won several national tournaments and turned pro in 2016. Now, when the decision to turn pro between Vergil Sr. and Vergil Jr., they made the decision to go with Toño Diaz. Toño Diaz was somebody that they saw a lot in the amateurs, on the amateur circuit, so they'd always see each other in the national level tournaments. And they naturally went, Vergil Jr. naturally went with somebody that was familiar to him, so he went with Toño Diaz out of Indio. And that was his first 8. Ever since he turned pro, he's been with Golden Boy Promotions. So he was fighting at the Velasco. He was fighting there at the Fantasy Springs in Indio. The majority of his fights, he's landed on the Canelo undercard, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's landed at least once. He's had 1 fight in Cancun. That was when his dad took his career over. There about his 9th or 10th fight. And eventually he made the move from 140 to 147. And that was really by accident, because it was Mauricio, Vergil Sr. has shared with us that it was actually Mauricio Herrera's team who was asking to have the fight at 147. So they're like, sure, why not? And once he made the move to 147, he just stayed there. He was around 21 years old, so his body was still maturing, and he was growing into his full man body. There you see him. He's hitting the speed bag. I happened to visit the gym one day, and I got there a little bit late. He was already almost done. He works out usually from 12 to 3. That's noontime to 3 p.m. And I got there around 2:30, and he just had some speed work to do and not much left. So he hit the speed bag, but if you notice, he hit the speed bag for 3 full rounds, and he hasn't made a single error. And he even said it at the very end. I didn't catch it on camera, but he goes, "Did you catch all of that? Because I didn't make a single error in all 3 of those rounds." He was very excited. He was sharing with it. He said that out loud to the gym. I did have to edit the video because after 2 rounds I wanted to record a little bit for Instagram, so I put my camera down and I recorded on my phone for about a minute or so that I could upload something to Instagram, and then I grabbed my camera and started recording again. So instead of it being let me see, 9 minutes, that would be 3 rounds plus 1 minute breaks, 9 plus 3, it should have been 12 minutes, but the video is only about 8 or 9 minutes. In 2020, he was scheduled to fight Sammy Vargas in the beginning of the year, and then the pandemic hit, so that fight got postponed. His was the first fight to get postponed for Golden Boy Promotions. And then there was talks of the summer of bringing Ryan back, and then his fight fell out, and Vergil became the main event there in the Fantasy Springs in Indio in July 24th. So that was the first fight back for Golden Boy Promotions from the pandemic, and he was the main event. Now that was a card with no audience, so I just stayed in the lobby and caught some videos of interviews of him and Hector Beltran and Vergil once the fight was over. Once again, this is Vergil Ortiz Jr., promoted by Golden Boy Promotions. 16 fights, 16 knockouts, 2019 Prospect of the Year by ESPN. His head trainer is his father. Vergil, there it is. There's the cut. There's the edit that I made right there. Vergil Ortiz Sr., who has been training his son since the age of 5, and now he's 22 years old. He is trained at Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy, RGBA in Riverside, and he is also, well, the whole team. He works out with the whole team. So part of RGBA is his Robert's son Pita, Chepe, Charles Trembley, and the chefs there. So if you want to follow him, he's at Vergil Ortiz on Instagram, at Vergil Ortiz on Twitter. I'm Sonteo Media. You can follow me at Sonteo_media on all major platforms.